you wonder that we now demand, yes, demand respite from our torment? Do you wonder that now my voice is raised in protest? We, who were once voiceless, have demands and requirements. We have the right to be heard. We are not subject of barter, but living and virile nations with a role to play in this world and a contribution to make. Imperialism is not yet dead. People sometimes say imperialism and colonialism is dead. No, imperialism is not yet dead. It is dying. Yes, the tide of history is washing over its battlements and undermining its foundations. Yes, the victory of independence and nationalism is certain. Still, and mark my words well, the dying imperialism is dangerous as the wounded tiger in a tropical jungle. I tell you this, and I am conscious of speaking now for my Asian and African brothers. The struggle for independence is always justified and always just. Those who resist that irresistible onward march of national independence and self-determination are blind. Those who seek to reverse what is irreversible are dangerous to themselves and to the world. Until these facts, and they are facts, are recognized, there will be no peace in this world and no release of tension. I appeal to you, please the authority and the moral power of this organization of states behind those who struggle for freedom. Do that clearly, do that decisively, do that now, do that, and you will gain the full and wholehearted support of all men of goodwill. Do that now, and future generations will applaud you. I appeal to you, to all members of the United Nations, move with the tide of history. Do not try to stem that tide. Then it is the testing of those weapons.
Since the 1960s, the United Nations has launched a series of international development strategies, but these have not been sufficient to redress the imbalances between the developed and the developing countries. The gap between them continues to widen. The developing countries remain marginalized from the world economic decision-making processes. With the end of the Cold War, there has been a new surge of interdependence and multilateralism, while the world economy has increasingly globalized. The non-aligned movement at its Jakarta summit in 1992 adopted a new approach and orientation and launched an initiative to once again engage the developed countries in a dialogue based on this time on mutual interests and benefits, equitably shared responsibility, as well as on genuine interdependence.
Pembagian tanggung jawab yang adil dan saling ketergantungan yang sejati. Adalah harapan kami bahwa
it is our hope that the revival of this dialogue will be distinctly reflected in the agenda for development, so that it will adequately complement the agenda for peace. Mr. President, in these troubled times, we, the governments and peoples of the world, look up to the United Nations for the sustenance of our hopes. There is no question that we need the United Nations. What we often forget is that the United Nations needs us too. We applaud its triumphs, but we often forget that its failure
dalam dunia
are
ini adalah
ours
juga
too.
kegagalan kita. Tanggung jawab
Its
PBB adalah
responsibility
juga tanggung jawab
is
kita
our
semuanya.
responsibility.
PBB telah berhasil
The United
memenuhi
Nations has
kebutuhan
served
kita
us well
selama setengah
over the
abad
past
terakhir
half
ini.
century.
Tetapi kita tidak akan
However,
pernah mampu
we will never be able
menciptakan
to
tatanan
realize
internasional
the new
baru
international
yang lebih
order
damai,
of greater
lebih
peace,
berkeadilan
social
dan
justice,
lebih
and
makmur.
common prosperity,
Apabila organisasi
so long
ini
as
dibiarkan
the
tetap pada
organization is
kondisi
allowed
seperti
to
sekarang.
remain in the state
Kita hanya
that it
dapat
is in
mencapai
today.
tujuan itu
We can reach
apabila
that goal
kita
only
pada
after we
akhirnya
have finally
mampu
made the United
menjadikan
Nations
PBB
the
sebagai
effective
sarana
instrument
perdamaian
of
yang
peace
efektif
as
bagaimana
was
dicita-citakan
envisioned
50
50
tahun
years
yang lalu.
ago.
Semoga Tuhan
May
Yang
God
Maha Esa
Almighty
memberkahi
bless
kita
us all.
semua. Terima kasih.
Thank you, and I
Wassalamualaikum
thank you, Mr.
warahmatullahi
President.
wabarakatuh.
In our pursuit of national development. Once the major powers behave in a more just manner and make clear their impartiality in the Middle East, then most of the root causes of terrorism perpetrated in the name of Islam, which in any circumstances cannot be justified, would have been resolved.
Clearly, whatever the explanation, the present international system for now cannot resolve the Syrian conflict. And there is every likelihood that the community of nations will see similar conflicts in the future. It will be a different corner of the world and in different forms with different actors. It will not help the cause of international peace if, again, we end up being divided and unable to positively alter the cause of the conflict. The world community must evolve ways to address them more effectively toward peaceful ends. We must adapt the 21st century security challenges. There is no question that the world we live in today is in much better condition than the one in the 20th century. Freedom has spread, the threat of nuclear holocaust is receding significantly. There is no prospect of a world war, the kind of which twice wrecked the 20th century. The global economy has expanded remarkably. Nations are becoming more interdependent. International cooperation and partnerships are flourishing. However, it is only relative peace, not total peace as yet. We have moved from the era of the Cold War to an era of warm peace. In this warm peace, the world remains stuck with an outdated international security architecture that still reflects 20th century circumstances, in contrast with the global economic architecture that has done much better to adjust to the 21st century. In this warm peace, the relationship between the major powers for the first time are marked by relative stability and increased cooperation. But the question remains unanswered as to how they will accommodate the growing ranks of emerging powers that are reshaping the world order. In this warm peace, old enmities and long-standing conflicts can still resurface.
Today, Indonesia is nearer than ever before to meeting the sustainable development goals of ending extreme poverty and hunger. Because years ago, this very chamber chose to listen and uphold social and economic justice. We will never forget. And today, we must never be silent while Palestinians are denied that same justice and legitimacy in this very hall. Excellencies, Thucydides warned, the strong do what they can, the weak suffer what they must. We must reject this doctrine The United Nations exist to reject this doctrine. We must stand for all, the strong and the weak. Might cannot be right. Right must be right. Indonesia today is one of the largest contributors to United Peacekeeping Forces. We believe in the United Nations. We will continue to serve where peace needs guardians, not with just words, but with boots on the ground. If and when the United Nations Security Council and this great assembly decide Indonesia is prepared to deploy 20,000 or even more of our sons and daughters to help secure peace in Gaza or elsewhere, in Ukraine, in Sudan, in Libya, everywhere when the peace needs to be enforced, peace needs to be guarded, we are ready. We will take our share of the burden, not only with our sons and daughters, we are also willing to contribute financially to support the great mission to achieve peace by the United Nations. Madam President, Excellencies, I propose to this Assembly a message of hope and optimism, grounded in action and execution. Today, we heard the speech of Madam President, the President of the United Nations General Assembly. Yes, it is true what she said. Without the International Civil Aviation Organization, will we be here today? Will we sit in this great hall? Without the United Nations, we cannot be safe. No country can feel secure. We need the United Nations, and Indonesia will continue to support the United Nations, even though we still struggle, but we know the world needs a strong United Nations. The world's population is growing. Our planet is under strain. Food, energy, and water insecurity haunt many nations. We choose to answer these challenges directly at home and to help abroad wherever we can. This year, Indonesia recorded the highest rice production and grain reserves in our history. We are now self-sufficient in rice, and we are starting now to export rice to other nations in need, including providing rice for Palestine. We are building resilient food supply chains, strengthening farmer productivity, investing in climate-smart agriculture to ensure food security for our children and for the children of the world. We are confident in a few years' time, Indonesia will be the granary of the world. As the world's largest island state, we testify before you that we are already experiencing the direct consequences of climate change, particularly the threat of rising sea levels. The sea level on the north coast of our capital city is increasing by 5 centimeters every year. Can you imagine in 10 years? Can you imagine in 20 years? For this, we are forced to build a giant seawall, 480 kilometers in length. It will take us maybe 20 years, but we have no choice We have to start now. Therefore, we choose to confront climate change not by slogans, but by immediate steps. We are committed to meeting our 2015 Paris Agreement obligations. We aim to achieve net zero emission by 2060, and we are very confident we can achieve net zero emission much earlier. We aim to reforest more than 12 million hectares of degraded forest, to reduce forest degradation, to empower local communities with quality green jobs for the future. Indonesia is shifting decisively from fossil fuel-based development towards renewable-based development.